symptoms.
How did the company Silver and Silver zoom in on copper? I mean, there are so many minerals. What made that such a
Yeah.
paramount
Well, I
mineral?
think part of it is we looked at, historically, and I talked about the silver last time, as far back as Hippocrates talked about silver for wound healing. So I'm going to jump back to Hippocrates again. So as far back as Hippocrates, but also let's go even further back. As far back, throughout history, healers have understood the value of copper in maintaining optimal health, whether it's applied topically or ingested. So whether it's a copper carbonate, a copper silicate, copper acetate have been used throughout history as far back as ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, and even the Aztec civilization knew about the importance of copper. The oldest written about is something called the Smith Papyrus, which is an ancient Egyptian text where they talked about copper as a sterilizing agent for drinking water in wounds.
Hmm.
Look at some of our history, and water was kept in either, we drank out of copper cups or silver cups. We didn't understand the microbiology at the time, but they knew that it tasted better if it was in copper or silver and stayed cleaner. So even far, moving forward a little bit back, another ancient text called the Ebris Papyrus mentioned copper for headaches, for something called trembling of the limbs, for burns, for itching. And Cyprus, the island off of Greece, provided much of the copper for both the Phoenician and the Roman empires. So it's been documented as far back as 400 BC and Hippocrates, all of these benefits. Hippocrates used it for varicose veins. Now, interesting enough with the varicose veins, if you look at cuprum metallicum or homeopathic copper, one of the keynotes is varicose veins. So cuprum metallicum is used for varicosities. So absolutely amazing in all
How
kinds
is
of
it
things.
used for varicose veins? How was it used?
It was either applied topically or orally. So the Greeks they actually sprinkled this powder of copper oxide, copper sulfate on open wounds, but used a mixture of honey and red copper oxide and applied it in order to help support the varicose veins.
Hmm.
So, and then think about, even for years, we've talked about copper. Go into a health food store today and you'll find copper bracelets and copper jewelry. Think about, how about Tommy Fit Copper, the copper braces that you wear on elbows and knees, applying copper topically to help support arthritis and inflammation.
Mhm.
How about taking it internally as well to support even more? So pretty amazing. I tell when I talk about the jewelry too, is my grandfather had this copper ring that he always wore, and he swore that it helped his fingers and his arthritis.
Hmm.
So I think it's so fascinating, all the anecdotal, as far back as another one, Pliny the Elder, described a number of different remedies, black copper oxide mixed with honey again to kill intestinal worms, purging the stomach,
Hmm.
using drops in the nose to clear the head, eardrops to clear out ear infections, eye pain. Even the Mongolian tribes used copper sulfate to treat when taken by mouth to treat venereal ulcers.
Wow.
Um, and even more recent, the first recorded observation of copper roles is in 1867, was
Hmm.
reported that during the cholera epidemics in Paris, 1832, 1849, and 1852, they noticed that copper workers were immune to the cholera. So it was supporting the immune system.
Okay.
In 1885, the French physician Luton reported using copper acetate to treat arthritis. So many anecdotal evidence, and throughout history, jumping into the 20th century, and Germany used copper chloride and lecithin and used it in anti-cancer activity. Just mind blowing. I'm just kind of scrolling through some notes that I have here, and just numerous studies after study that support this as far back as the 1800s, the 1900s, and even as far back as 2400 BC with that Smith papyrus, that we've used it in all types of things. Even jumping even forward a little bit more into 1973, Dr. Cleve theorized that a metabolic imbalance between zinc and copper was the major contributing factor to coronary heart disease, which is amazing when we start looking at some of the cuproenzymes that we now know more about. Is copper helps with cuproenzymes that support the flexibility of our arteries and our heart. So a lot of heart disease happens when things stiffen. So if arteries stiffen, if our heart muscle stiffens, it's this anti-inflammatory action of copper complexes that helps support the health and overall health